Hello, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We are looking at the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. If you pay attention to the right side of the screen, you can see the two objects, Jupiter on top, the big round ball looking thing, and Saturn at the bottom, drifting just out of view. Uh, these objects have not been this close together in almost 397 years. So this truly is a great treat for us. And the next time we'll see these objects get this close is going to be in 60 years. So I would highly recommend that everyone go outside, look towards the western horizon, and look for these two objects. They'll be about, if you hold your arm out, they'll be about half a palm's length above the horizon towards the west, and they'll appear to be two bright stars. One will be a slightly reddish and slightly dimmer star that will be Saturn, and the other will be a bright star, and that is actually Jupiter. And these two objects will appear to be very close together. Um, as far as I know, there aren't any other bright objects that you can see in the night sky that are that close together. So this really is a unique view. Um, Jupiter and Saturn are of course, the some of the largest planets in the solar system. They are Jupiter is about 740 million kilometers away, and Saturn is double that. That's why it appears to be so much dimmer. Saturn is about 1.5 billion kilometers away from Earth. Of course, these distances keep changing because the planets are constantly moving around the sun, and their distance relative to us is always in flux. Um, but what we're looking at here is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. These are the views from Lahore, and these objects are very, very low on the western horizon. We'll lose them in about an hour. So it really is a very short viewing window, but I ain't complaining. This is quite a wonderful sight. I'm just going to. So just moving the scope a little. We're zoomed in. I've got a 2x Barlow on there, which means it magnifies the image by 2. So we can see some detail on Jupiter and some detail on Saturn as well. I'm just going to mess with the uh, settings, exposure settings, and we might lose Saturn, but we'll just bring out some atmospheric detail on Jupiter. And you should just be able to make out a few bands on the surface of Jupiter. Um, and if I boost the exposure up, we should be able to see some moons of Jupiter. Yes, you see, you can see 4 of the Jovian moons. Um, and we can also see the error in my focusing. It's a little soft, but you can clearly see 2 moons to the left of Jupiter and 2 moons to the right of Jupiter. What a beautiful sight! And that big oblong thing at the bottom is in a very, very overexposed Saturn. Let's get these things back down to a more sort of manageable exposure. Hey Riz and Fez and Isa, thanks for tuning in. Um, we should have you guys over to the observatory once things are a bit normal as far as lockdown goes. But thanks for watching. And if you guys have any questions about the planets or about the solar system or about what we're looking at, please feel free to write a comment in the chat, and I'll see if I can find out and tell you. again, if you're just joining the stream, I highly recommend that you guys go outside and look towards the western horizon, and you should be able to see just about half a palm's length above the horizon. You should see two bright stars, one on top of the other. The brighter one is Jupiter. It's not a star, it's a planet. And the slightly dimmer one is actually Saturn. And Saturn, if you notice, it kind of has a reddish oranges hue as well. Um, for those of you who are tuning in from Islamabad or in a place where it's cloudy, we're here at your service. I'm streaming to you live from Zed's Astronomical Observatory in Lahore, and this is in collaboration with the Lahore Astronomical Society. You can check out our Facebook pages and our Instagram pages. All the links should be in the bio below, in the write-up below. Or, they should be down there as well. There, actually, this side. That's a really good question. Some Faiz and Isa are asking about the moons of the planets. So these larger gas giants, they're very, very large planets, and they when they were formed, how planets are formed is a lot of dust and gas and debris. It sort of coalesces into one sort of spherical shape, and they start spinning and spinning and spinning. And as these objects spin, uh, also as these objects spin and get sort of become into a ball, uh, not all the material gets absorbed into the main ball, and some of it gets stuck in a gravitational orbit, and it forms its own little balls around these big planets. And also another way that moons form is that meteors and asteroids collide with the forming planet and cause debris to escape from the main planet and sort of get stuck in a loop around the main planet, and then they sort of come together over millions and millions and millions of years. They form into these balls that become moons. The gas giants have a lot of moons. So Jupiter has 70 plus moons, and every few years we're discovering new moons. There's some are large, some are small, and same with Saturn. Saturn has many, many moons. So that's a very nice question. They're also asking about the significance of the conjunction. So basically, Faiz and Isa, it's not really significant from a scientific. It's not really significant from a scientific point of view. It's just really, really cool. Like so, these objects, Jupiter is if I am Earth, right? Jupiter is 750 million kilometers away, and then Saturn is over here, and Saturn is a hundred. I'm sorry, is 1.5 billion kilometers away. So these objects are so far away from each other, but right now, today, from our point of view, they all kind of look like they're very close together, when in actuality they're really this far apart. So so it's a visual sort of conjunction. Like they appear to be close together and it's especially cool because when you look through a telescope, you can only ever see one planet or one moon or one object. But today, through a telescope, we can see two planets at the same time. So it's basically it's just a really cool thing. Yeah. So us astronomers tend to geek out about these kind of things because it's there once in a lifetime for many of us, and you guys might be able to see it again in 60 years. So if Fez and Isa, if you are watching this conjunction happen again in 60 years, remember me, okay? So you guys keep watching, and I'm going to go and have a look visually outside the observatory. I just want to look at the objects with the naked eye. I highly recommend that everyone who's watching, you guys go out and look at the western horizon. You'll see these two objects just above the western horizon. Just look to the west and look at these two stars above the horizon, and those are Jupiter and Saturn. I'll be right back. Hey guys, I'm back. The two objects are clearly visible above the western horizon. You just go out, look to the west, and you'll see the two planets. And it's remarkable to see them so close together. They're so close that I can get both of them in my field of view in my telescope using a 2x Barlow. So that's it's really incredible. I can't explain to you um, how bizarre it is to see both these objects together. I'm just bringing them back into our field of view because they sort of drifted out. So if you guys are just tuning in, what we're looking at is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. I'm broadcasting live from Zed's Astronomical Observatory in Lahore. And if you look at our setup here, what we have just below me is a screen cap of my planetarium software. This is a software called the Sky X, and it is the software that I'm using to control the telescope. And if you look just over here, you should see the live view from the camera attached to my telescope. So the telescope I'm using today doesn't actually belong to me. It belongs to the president of the Lahore Astronomical Society. His name is Umair Asim, and Umair has this fantastic Meade apochromatic refractor telescope. I think it's got 1200 focal length, and it's a 5-inch diameter 5-inch diameter lenses. So it's a extremely high quality telescope. And the telescope is mounted on a Celestron C-Gem mount. It's a really old and beat up mount, but it works like a charm. And it's a real workhorse, and that also is Omer's. Um, and the reason why I'm using Omer's setup right now is because my telescope, although it's also parked right next to this telescope, the observatory, is the tripod is just a little too short for me to look out over the roof, over the wall of the observatory at such a low angle. Because these objects are, only about 15, 20 degrees above the horizon right now, only about 15, 20 degrees above the horizon, it's very difficult to point a telescope at them from inside the observatory. Usually I can point at objects above 25 degrees, so about 30 degrees actually. So anything below 30, I can't point my telescope at, which is why I'm using Omer's telescope, because I've boosted up the legs and it's looking over the roof of the observatory at these objects. And so if you see the live view over here, you'll see Jupiter in the middle of the screen, and just drifting down is Saturn. Saturn likes to try and run away from us, so I'm just going to move the telescope. You can see in the scope control just below me, I'm actually jogging the telescope a bit to the left, and moving it slightly up as well. That should bring Saturn and Jupiter back into view. And I will also, as the planets go further, sink further towards the horizon, two things are going to happen. One is we're going to lose a lot of clarity, because the sort of the further west they appear to travel, the further down they appear from our point of view, and we are looking at them through more and more layers of dust and pollution and atmosphere. So the further the planets sink, the more time goes by, the further the planets sink, the further they set, like the sun sets, the more dim and hazy they'll become. So as they dim, I can compensate by increasing the exposure, so which I'm going to do here, and we should see the planets start to be a little overexposed, and some of Jupiter's moons should also pop into view. the Jovian system is quite beautiful. The Jovian system is the system of Jupiter and these four moons. I'm going to boost up the exposure so I can show you these moons, and let's talk a little bit about these guys. Right. So you should be able to see four of the moons of Jupiter. And I'm actually just going to pop out and adjust the focus. I'll be right back. Hey guys, so that's about as critical as I can get the focus. The objects are so low on the horizon that they're getting a little hazy and fuzzy. Um, but you can clearly see the four moons of Jupiter. Two are to the left of Jupiter, and two are slightly further out to the right of Jupiter. And these are called the Galilean moons because a few hundred years ago, when Galileo first looked through his telescope and pointed it towards Jupiter, this is the sight that he saw. He saw this large planet, this large gas giant, and these four moons. So we lovingly, in his honor, call them the Galilean moons. But when in fact this is better known as the Jovian system, which is this planet, these four moons, and the 70 odd other moons that Jupiter has, or whatever the latest number is. And Saturn is appears to be sinking away from view. So let's bring her back into our frame. There she is. This is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, and it's quite a sight. I'm going to drop the exposure a little so that we get some details on the rings of Saturn and on the planet surface of Jupiter. Unfortunately, the objects are Jupiter is about almost, I mean, appears to be almost twice as bright as Saturn. So if I um, this is the sweet spot between the two brightnesses where you can just make out some atmospheric banding on the surface of Jupiter, and you can just make out the rings of Saturn. Saturn, of course, is down below, and Jupiter is on top. We got a good question here from Hassan Tahir. He's asking, are they really drifting apart, just so to say, or is the alignment yet to happen? I think I'm not sure of the exact time of the alignment, but they are. I mean, they in any real world terms, this is about as close as they're going to get. But let me actually go and check the exact time of the alignment, the conjunction. Sorry. I was looking for this yesterday as well. I couldn't find the exact time. Um, Yeah, I can't find an exact time, but this is pretty much it. I mean, we're going to lose these objects very shortly because they're going to set below the horizon. Um, but these objects are only zero point 0.1 degree apart. And to put that into context, if this was the moon, if this was the moon, if you divide the moon into fifths, so these objects are about one fifth the diameter of the moon apart. Um, and yeah, it's quite incredible to see objects this close together. Sometimes something that is similar to this is when you are looking at Jupiter on any given day, and you can see the moons appearing from behind Jupiter or just going behind Jupiter, and they appear to be very close together. But that, of course, is only visible through a telescope. Hi, Selena. Thanks for joining in. And uh, I'm dead inside. That's a fantastic handle. I'm dead inside from India. Hey, bro, how's it going? Um, so if you, I'm not sure where in India you are, but you should still have some time. So go out onto your roof and look towards the western horizon. Look towards the west, and just above the western horizon, about if you hold your arm out about this much above the western horizon, you should be able to see two stars in the sky, and the brightest star is Jupiter, and the slightly dimmer reddish star is Saturn. And definitely, everyone tuned in, go out, go and have a look at these objects with the naked eye. It's a once in a lifetime experience for many of us. The last time this happened was 400 years ago, and the next time this will happen will be in about 60 years. So definitely go out, definitely have a look, and definitely leave a comment. And if you guys want people to come check out the stream while it's still on, then please do share the link, and don't forget to hit the like button, and do me a favor and subscribe, because who doesn't like to see that subscriber count go up? These objects they're absolutely stunning. We've got the skies actually appears to be a little clearer now, and we can see more detail on Saturn. I'm going to quickly drop the exposure, and let's see. Sorry, I'm going to boost the exposure, and let's see if we can bring out a little more detail on Saturn. Yes. Is it just me, or can you make out the Cassini division? The Cassini division is when you're looking at Saturn. Saturn doesn't have one ring, it has many rings. So the division between the two outermost rings is called the Cassini division. And that division is, I think it's visible now because the sky seems to have cleared up a little, but I could be imagining things as well, because who doesn't love to see details on Saturn? Saturn is a beautiful object. I'm going to now drop the exposure, and the sky conditions are deteriorating rapidly, but I'm going to drop the exposure, and let's see if we can favor Jupiter a little bit. Oof, look how it's wobbling and appears to be getting out of focus. This is not a focusing issue. This is a atmospheric disturbance, just because these objects are so low on the horizon that we're having this sort of heat distortion. As the sun has set, and as the sun sets, the Earth starts to cool very rapidly. Um, the Earth starts to cool rapidly. It starts to radiate heat out towards space, and that heat radiation causes all this sort of wibbly wobbliness between the telescope and the objects. Rashid Mahmood Khan is asking, "Can I tell you the exact location with reference to the moon?" So the moon is south. It's kind of. Let me just have a look. Yeah, so the moon is overhead, but towards the southwest, right? So if you the moon is overhead towards the southwest, and if you follow Sorry, my headphones keep disconnecting. The moon is up high in the sky, but towards the southwest. And if you draw a line from the moon directly to the west, towards the west, where you pray to, where the sun sets. If you draw a line from the moon to the west, very close to the western horizon, just above the horizon, you should be able to see two bright objects. One of them is Jupiter, the brightest one, and Saturn is slightly dimmer. Saturn will be quite difficult to see now because they're very low on the horizon. If you are in Islamabad, you've probably already lost them. I'm not sure though. And people south of Lahore, Karachi, India, Sri Lanka, more close to the equator, you still have time to see these objects. Um, I'm just going to see what they look like with the naked eye and get back to you. So through the pollution of Lahore, I cannot make out Saturn anymore, but I can make out Jupiter. Jupiter has become very faint. So your best option here is to stay tuned to my live stream, and I will be showing you Jupiter and Saturn for as long as I can. And once look how dim Saturn has become because it's sunk so deep into the horizon. And once we lose Jupiter and Saturn, I am going to go to the moon. Uh, as in, I'm going to slew the telescope to the moon. I'd love to go to the moon. And once we're done with this, I'm going to show you guys the moon, and we're going to enjoy some top class views of the moon. The moon is almost directly overhead, so there'll be almost no atmospheric disturbance. And the moon is a very bright object, and I've got a very good telescope, courtesy of Umair Asim, and yeah, we're gonna have some fun with the moon. So if you guys are just tuning in, what we're looking at just to that side of me is Jupiter, the big bright ball on top, and right below it, Saturn, of course, with its fantastic rings. It's um, it's actually it's really wonderful to see these planets through a telescope. If you guys ever have the opportunity to look through a telescope, then I sincerely suggest that um, you call up that friend and say, "Bro, dikha de yaar. Let me have a look," because I mean, none of us will ever forget that first time that we looked through a telescope, and the first time you see a planet with your eyes, not through a screen or not through not Googled or Hubble images. When you're looking at it live, where if you shake the telescope, the planet appears to shake, or if a bird passes in front, it obscures. It's live, it's real, it's tangible, and it sort of opens up your mind a little as to that your reality extends beyond what you can see or what you think about on a day-to-day basis. And for me personally, looking at the first time I looked through a telescope, and it started this love of astronomy. And uh, for me personally, it's really humbling to sort of know, have an inkling towards the scale of uh, our solar system and the universe and our galaxy, and the desire to acquire more knowledge about these objects and their origins and the way these things form. And my personal favorite thing to do when it comes to astronomy is to take photographs. I'm always on the quest to take beautiful pictures and beautiful images of these objects. And it's incredible the community in Lahore and in Pakistan. The Lahore Astronomical Society has visit our our Facebook page. There should be a link in the description below, or just down there. Our Facebook page. We've got some incredible astrophotographers who are shooting just award-winning images from these polluted skies of Lahore. Uh, When I say polluted, I do mean light pollution and smog as well. The kind of work that these imagers are doing. Muhammad Ali, who's by the way, it's birthday today. Happy birthday, Muhammad Ali Saab. And Shoaib Usman Bande, another incredible imager. Roshan Bukhari, fantastic imager. So do check out the Lahore Astronomical Society Instagram page, which is at Lahore Astronomy, and our Facebook page, which is uh, it's a Facebook group, and it's called the Lahore Astronomical Society. Saturn is trying to escape from our view again, but never fear. The Sky X is helping me control the telescope, and I can move Saturn back into our view. You can see it's dimmed again, so I'm going to increase the exposure time a little more so that we get a better view of these two incredible objects. This is the conjunction. This is the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, live from Lahore, from Zed's Astronomical Observatory, and I'm streaming here on behalf of the Lahore Astronomical Society. Another thing that happens when you look at objects which are getting closer to the horizon, most notably with the moon when it's rising or when it's setting, and with the sun, again at sunrise or at sunset. And today, if you guys are looking at these objects with the naked eye, you will notice that they become reddish in color. And can anyone tell me in the comments below why do you think the objects tend to become reddish when they get closer to the horizon? Thanks, Riz. Thanks for tuning in. Excuse me. Hey guys, if you guys have just tuned in, we are watching the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. It's almost done now. Both these objects are very, very low on the horizon above the western horizon in Lahore. But we are trying our best. We're pushing our equipment to the absolute limits, and we're trying to enjoy this view of Jupiter and Saturn. for as long as possible. If you just look over here, you can see Jupiter, the big ball, the big bright ball. That's Jupiter, the largest planet in our solar system. And just down and to the right, you can see Saturn, another beautiful gas giant. And Saturn, of course, is famous because it has these wonderful rings around it. These objects, Jupiter is still visible if you look out towards the west with the naked eye, but Saturn is just a little too dim now. So if you guys are just tuning in, we're still here looking at the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. These two incredible objects are within zero point 0.1 degree of separation, and that's uh, about a fifth the diameter of the moon. That's how close these objects are. It is unbelievable that they are both visible through a 2x Barlow, which is 2x magnification from a telescope at the same time. It is mind blowing. And to see these objects through a telescope, which is something I actually haven't done today because I've got my camera stuck to the telescope. But to see these two objects together is breathtaking, and I'm so glad to have been able to set up this stream from Zed's Astronomical Observatory for you guys. And those of you who are tuned in from the Lahore Astronomical Society page, welcome and thanks for watching. Um, uh, we hope from the Lahore Astronomical Society, we hope to bring you a lot more of these streaming events now that the world has gone into lockdown again and the second wave is here, and God knows when we'll get our vaccines in Pakistan. So um, until then, we're here to provide you with an astronomical solution for your lockdown woes. Bill Khan asks, what telescope are you using to see the conjunction? Hi, Bill Khan. Thanks for joining the stream. I am using an epichromatic refracting telescope. It's a 5-inch diameter lens with about 1,000 to 1,200 millimeter focal length. I've also got a 2x Barlow on there, and the imaging setup is Orion Starshoot Autoguider SSAG. Um, Gilani, what's up, man? Bilal, welcome to the stream. How's it going? Um, Thanks for tuning in, guys. But you guys probably can't see it in Islamabad because it's really cloudy, but here above the western horizon in Lahore, we still have a few moments left of seeing this conjunction. The big bright object on the top is Jupiter, and right below that, the sort of oblong object, the circle with the rings around it, of course, is Saturn. Jupiter is about 750 million kilometers away, so just just around the corner. And Saturn is incredibly twice that distance away from Earth. So where Jupiter is 750 odd million kilometers away, Saturn is about 1.5 billion kilometers away. And this is what makes this conjunction really special, that even though the distance between us and Jupiter is x, and the distance between us and Saturn is 2x. Right now, we are so perfectly aligned that we can see both of them within zero point 0.1 degree of separation of each other. It's um, it's pretty cool. Somebody earlier in the stream was asking what is the significance of the conjunction, and I assure you that nothing is in retrograde, and this is we're not. I'm not going to tell you your horoscope. It has no effect on these planets. The movement of these planets has no effect on our futures and our fortunes, as not as far as I know. But uh, it's very cool. It is a very cool thing to see, and it's a very cool thing to witness. The last time this happened was 400 years ago, and the next time this will happen is in about 60 years. So for many of us, this is once in a lifetime. And for those of you who have been with me since the beginning of this stream, I'm sorry I'm repeating myself, but you know, the new guys in the comments need to know what's going on. So Saturn is drifting further down. I'm just going to reposition the scope. If you guys pay attention to the scope control window, I'm toggling um, the telescope to move so that I can reframe these objects as they appear to drift out of the view. And I'm also going to boost the exposure a little because they're getting a little dim and they're really, really hazy now. Yeah, they're just super hazy now. Those of you who are tuned in, leave a those of you guys who are tuned in, leave a comment below and let me know if you want me to slew my telescope to the moon. The moon is going to look absolutely incredible right now. It's a clear sky. It's right above us. There's no atmospheric disturbance there, and it's a super bright object, so we can enjoy some really, really good views of the moon. I've got about 15 to 20 minutes left in the stream. Leave a little comment and let me know if you want me to zoom to the moon. Thank you, Nilufer. That's very kind of you. It's a really beautiful sight to see these two objects so close together. Okay, I've got one vote from Taha Emmett to zoom to the moon. Um, if five more of you guys say moon, then I'm going to zoom to the moon immediately. Otherwise, we'll go there in about 10 minutes. These objects are so low. The planets Jupiter and Saturn are so low on the horizon now that they're extremely fuzzy, and they are getting out of focus, and they're getting very dim. So we're losing, the good viewing. We're losing a good view of them now because they're so low on the horizon. Uh, Jupiter is right now at a altitude of 5 degrees. So that's really, really low. And wow, 5 degrees is, I don't think I've ever imaged something that low on the horizon. Wow. I'm actually going to go have a look and see if I can still see it with the naked eye. So yeah, I cannot see Jupiter with the naked eye anymore. And the telescope, the telescope is pretty much looking right at the wall. So guys, I'm going to, those of you who tuned in, for the conjunction. Thank you guys so much for joining me um, uh, at the at this incredible event, the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And I'm now going to go to the moon. I'm going to slew the telescope to the moon. So just bear with me, and I will be right back. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. We are pretty much back. We are now going to look at the moon. Those of you guys who are still here, enjoy the view of the moon. So, what we're looking at is the surface of the moon. I slewed the telescope over to the moon. The moon is very high up now. It's in the western, very high up, but more towards the southwest. And it's a extremely beautiful night to view the moon. Um, if you guys can see the scope control window just below me, this is um, this is our view of the moon, and This is the planetarium software that I'm using, and just to this side of me, you can see the live view of the moon through the telescope right now. Those of you guys who just tuned in, we've slewed away from Jupiter and Saturn now because they've sunk so low on the horizon that we could no longer see them clearly. So now we are looking at the moon. Moon is at an absolutely beautiful phase. I wish I had my friend Roshan with me right now because he's our lunar expert, and he could tell you, he could go on and on talking about the moon. Nilofer Alam is saying we haven't really watched the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. It will happen below the horizon. Well, we've seen them. We've seen the conjunction as best we could from our location, um, and I hope that you guys tuned in time to watch it. And you guys can always, of course, go back and watch this video once I'm done with the stream, and you can really sort of enjoy the Jupiter and Saturn as it happened. But yes, the conjunction is still happening. It is just below the horizon for Lahore, and if you guys are in closer to the equator, you guys still have time to see. Mm, if you guys are further south and um, further east, you still have time to. Uh, sorry, further west, you still have time to see the conjunction. Noor Akram asked, "What time is the conjunction?" The conjunction is happening right now. I think it's going to peak at 8 p.m. Pakistan Standard Time. I think, but I don't quote me on that. I think I read that somewhere yesterday. But I mean, it's not going to get much closer than visibly for than it was when we saw it just a few moments ago. Uh, Trupti Shah, Trupti Shah is asking me to show Saturn and Jupiter. Hi Trupti, thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry we just slewed away from Saturn and Jupiter because they have gone below the horizon in Lahore, and my telescope can no longer see them. But once the stream is over, you can just scrobble back and see the view from Lahore. Right now we are looking at the moon. This is a live view of the moon, and we're seeing it from Lahore and from the Lahori smoggy, foggy skies. The moon is such an incredible object that we can really enjoy uh, it even in the worst of conditions. Um, so it's a beautiful night to be watching the moon. There's a little bit of atmospheric disturbance, but the moon is unfazed. The moon doesn't care. The moon keeps on shining. I'm gonna move. Let's see, move to a different part of the moon. There are these two craters, um, which I'm extremely fond of, and I'm gonna try and bring them dead center of the screen. They're really small craters. It's a crater pair. They're dead center. I'm gonna try and mouse over them. Right, so these two craters here, these are called Messier A and so so these two craters here, they're called Messier A and Messier B, Messier A and B, and they're you can see this white sort of tail, and you can see these two craters, and I think how they formed was a meteorite hit the moon's surface in a chain. So it hit one meteor hit here and the other hit here, and they caused these matching craters. And this white uh, this white line that we see is an explosion, a shock wave, a remnant of the explosion, like a mark made, a skid mark, if you will. So I find these creators extremely beautiful and extremely delicate, and I'm a big fan of these guys. So I love watching them. They're always ones that I look out for when it's when I focus the telescope on the moon. Let's see what else we can see on the moon. So we're coming in here on the terminator. The terminator is the line that separates the dark, the night and the day side of the moon, the dark and the light side of the moon. The terminator is where the light terminates. And along the terminator is where you see a lot of detail. I'm just going to boost the exposure a little um, so that we can see some more details. And because the shadow, just like on Earth's sunset ke Kareeb, our shadows become longer. So similarly here, the line of terminator is where the sun is setting on the moon. So if you were standing over here, you would see really long shadows. And when these shadows are long, from our point of view, we can see a lot of depth and a lot of detail. And it's really, really a wonderful time to look at the moon. You can see all these little cracks and crevices, the craters, the central peaks of the craters, and you can even see the lava flow marks in the sea areas, in the flat, light gray areas. You can see the lava flow where lava has flowed and cooled when the moon was forming and solidified, and truly an incredible view of the moon. Hassan Qureshi is asking if we can see the dark side of the moon if the transformer is still there. The transformer is still there. Unfortunately, I can't show it to you because I'm under contract with the CIA and the other secret agency from the Transformers movie. I'm not even allowed to say their name. So, unfortunately, I cannot show you the crashed Transformer ship and the the crash Transformers there. But I assure you, they're alive and well, and they're happy, and they're chilling on the dark side of the moon, and they're also, of course, listening to Pink Floyd while they're there. Sikandar Sheikh, don't be scared, man. I'm with you. We're all here together. We're all on the moon. It's gonna be fun. Nothing to be afraid of here. So a while ago, I asked why objects, when they're setting, approaching the horizon, they tend to become reddish in color. We notice this with the sun, of course, famously beautiful sunsets are those that as the sun sets, we see it go from white to yellow to pink to red to purple. Uh, and the reason that that happens is because the frequency of light that colors the that carries the color blue is the frequency that diffracts the most in our atmosphere. So the more an object, sorry, my headphones keep disconnecting. So the more atmosphere the light from an object has to travel to before it reaches our eyes, the more the color blue is removed from our point of view of that object, if that makes any sense. So objects high above will have a balanced RGB, red, green, blue, but objects closer to the horizon will have less blue, so the reds become more prominent, which is why these objects appear to be reddish in color when they're setting or when they're rising. It's because there's a lot of blue light which is diffracting in our atmosphere and we can't see it. So 10 points to anyone who guessed correctly. If you guys have just tuned in, we are looking at the moon live from Lahore, from Zed's Astronomical Observatory. We were previously watching the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, but unfortunately, both these objects have sunk below the horizon now. They've set for Lahore. It was a wonderful, wonderful view, and once this video is done, I'm definitely going to go back and rewatch it and देखता हूँ मैंने क्या बकवास की है, and I'll also see get to enjoy this conjunction again, the wonder of replays. But right now we are watching the moon. The moon is always great. It's great to look at. It's a beautiful object. You can enjoy it from a small binocular. You can enjoy it from the smallest of telescopes, or you can enjoy it from, nice telescopes like the one I have the pleasure of using here, thanks to Omer Asim. And we're looking at the moon, and we're looking at the terminator, which is where the night and the day, with the day ends and the night begins on the moon. The moon is uh, it's about 400,000 kilometers away from Earth, and it's a stunning object. It's our one and only moon. Well, interesting here. The moon doesn't have a name. We never bothered naming our moon. We have just always called it the moon. Um, some people think we should call it Luna, um, but that's not its official name. The moon is almost at 50% um, 50% illumination right now. Almost at half its age, because as we know, the moon has a 28-day cycle. So we are about 8 days away from the full moon. Um, and For those who are interested, this is a waxing crescent moon. Don't ask me what that means. Okay, let's move to another part of the moon. Kind of interested to see what's on the top side. So along the line of terminator, we see uh, some incredible details, and that's because the light is angular over there, so we get to see um, a lot of um depth because the it's casting such harsh shadows there that we can really it's casting such harsh shadows that we can really discern depth. Uh, Check out this uh, peak here. This is the central peak of the crater, and this forms when a meteorite hits the surface of the moon, and when at that point of impact, it immediately liquefies the surface of the moon into magma, into lava, and that lava explodes outwards. And as it goes up, it cools rapidly and it forms this peak. So these central peaks are visible in most of the larger craters on the moon, and it's a very cool feature to see. You can actually look at the sky conditions, wibbly wobbly the moon is getting. It's really nice to see these features through a telescope as well. Okay, let's move to another part of the moon. Let's move towards the north a little. This is a wonderful crater chain. These three craters right in the center, these three large craters. And again, you can notice the central peak of the lower right leftmost crater. Again, this is formed at the moment of impact of a meteorite. Really, really nice view of the moon through this telescope. I'm trying to just see what's happening on the north side of the moon. I mean, it's relative. North is relative, but that's just how I refer to it. Oh, this mountain range on the Terminator right now is wonderful. Let's see if I can zoom in just a little bit. Yeah, that's something. Look at the atmospheric disturbance. This is happening because the sky conditions in Lahore have deteriorated quite a lot, but that doesn't stop us from trying to enjoy the best possible view we can of the moon. I love how the light, so the light is shining from left to right, and it's creating a shadow. This wall is casting a shadow into this crater, and we can see the right side of the crater catching direct sunlight, and it's really white and bright. And similarly down here, what a cool place this must be. And then, of course, we see this mountain range um, above. Fantastic. That's a mountain range on the moon. Crazy, huh? Right. Let's drift down further. Let's go further north here. So now we're looking at the northern side of the moon again from our point of view. Let's see if I can bring in. So the controls for the are reversed. Every time I hit the up arrow, it moves down. It's a little confusing, but I'll get used to it now. Let's see what's happening in the comments. Sikandar is asking, is the conjunction over? The conjunction is over for us in Lahore because we can't see it anymore. The Jupiter and Saturn have both set below the horizon. Nilofer says, the moon looks beautiful. Thank you, Nilofer. I'm glad you're enjoying it, enjoying these views. Some areas are smoother than others. The impact doesn't happen everywhere, any particular reason. So the smooth areas are basically areas that where there was a lot of lava flow, and then the lava flow is cooled and it's made these plain areas. And they are smooth from our point of view, 500,000 kilometers away. But I'm sure over there there will be some terrain, some rocks and things lying around, boulders lying around. It's just that we can't see them from from Earth. Um, the crater impacts are of course caused by asteroids and not asteroids, but meteorites hitting the surface of the moon and creating these impacts. There's of course little to no atmosphere on the moon, so meteorites do not burn up uh, as they get close to the moon because there's no atmosphere which they have to fight against, and there's no friction which causes them to normally would cause them to burn up. For example, if a meteor tries to enter Earth's atmosphere, it because there's so much friction caused by the wind rubbing against the surface of the meteor that it gets really really hot and it explodes, and that's what we see as shooting stars. So our atmosphere protects us from most of the meteor strikes that happen on Earth. That's why we don't see a lot of craters on Earth. But on the moon, there's a little to no atmosphere, so we see a lot of meteor impacts. And the plain areas are, we refer to them as Marea, or that's Spanish for sea, as in SEAC. There's no, they're not liquid oceans, but we call them seas. And they are formed when lava flow sort of travels over the surface and then it cools to give it this appearance of a smooth area. And historically, every time we land a manned mission or a probe or a rover or something on the moon, we always aim for one of these seas because they are relatively easier terrain to traverse. Uh, and Yeah, that's the moon. All right, guys. I think that's it for me. I've had a great stream. I've had a great time presenting the conjunction and then a bonus of the moon for you guys from Zed's Astronomical Observatory in Lahore. Um, Shubham Lambis, hello. क्या हाल है यार? You're asking me to speak in Hindi. I don't speak Hindi. मैं उर्दू में बात कर सकता हूँ. मैं आपके लिए लाहौर से मून, जुपिटर और सैटर्न की इमेजेस लाइव ब्रॉडकास्ट कर रहा हूँ. ये चांद जो है अभी लाहौर के ऊपर नज़र आ रहा है एंड बहुत खूबसूरत व्यू है हमारा. और ये चांद की नॉर्थ साइड है एंड तकरीबन 50% इसकी इल्यूमिनेशन है अभी. एंड ये जो लाइन है जहाँ से दिन और रात की डिवीजन है चांद पे, इस लाइन को टर्मिनेटर बोलते हैं. अभी हम नॉर्दर्न साइड ऑफ द मून की टर्मिनेटर देख रहे हैं. शुभम, हम ये लाहौर से स्ट्रीम कर रहे हैं, लाहौर पाकिस्तान से. एंड लाहौर में हमारी ऑब्जर्वेटरी है, जेड्स एस्ट्रोनॉमिकल ऑब्जर्वेटरी के नाम से. यहाँ पे हमने टेलीस्कोप्स रखे हुए हैं, यहाँ पे हम लाइव स्ट्रीम कर रहे हैं. ओके गाइस, थैंक यू सो मच. बहुत शुक्रिया आप सबका. थैंक यू फॉर ट्यूनिंग इन एंड don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And hopefully, we'll catch you guys on the next stream. This has been awesome. I had a really good time. And see you guys in the next one.